Good morning. Hi, my name is Michael Brukim, and I'm here just to speak for a moment about the Leadership Institute at Harvard College. We're a new campus organization dedicated to many of the same principles that you're learning about in this class, namely to help individuals become better leaders and to bring leaders together for collaborative growth and exchange of ideas. We're already off to a great start. We have a few programs running, including the President's Forum that's being run by Jessica Zoffness and Angela Anthony, which is bringing together leaders of student group organizations, sports teams, community service organizations, etc. Where's Angela? Angela, stand up right there. That's Angela. You can see her. And we also have a leadership outreach program where we're working with elementary schools and middle schools, helping them develop student governments and leadership skills. Tal has been generous enough to offer to send out an email in the near future asking you guys to participate in a survey where we're looking for some feedback in finding out how we can best help you. We hope that you guys decide to get involved in making leadership improvement part of your Harvard experience beyond Psychology 1508, past the May midterm, and we hope to be one of the vehicles that you can seek that out through. Now I'm going to pass it over to Adam Hahn, who's going to talk to you about one upcoming event coming up real soon. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Adam. One of the things we're starting this spring is the Harvard Leadership Development Series. And the first event we have for this is going to be the first Saturday after spring break, April 8th. We have David Ager and Professor Amy Edmondson from the Business School coming out, and they're going to be leading an interactive case discussion on how to work in groups, how to make decisions on your feet, and it should be a really great group exercise. So you can come with your teammates, come with your friends, you can come in your coaching groups. And it's the first Saturday after spring break. We'll send out an email with more details. But we hope to see some of you guys out there. Here's Rachel to talk about the next event.
All right, so our next event after that is going to be a series of events, kind of dinner meetings, talking about public speaking. Harvard students say that they would really like to learn how to present themselves more confidently and more eloquently in public. So we're getting together with Toastmaster clubs from MIT and HSPH and the Public Speaking Club at the Business School. They're going to give you some pointers on how to better speak in public, and also you'll get the chance to give little impromptu speeches on things ranging from the best class you ever had to your role model growing up. It'll be a really casual, informal, supportive atmosphere, and we'll send out an email with locations. There'll be one in each neighborhood. Any questions, you can email leadership.harvard@gmail.com, and we will send out an email with the details for all these things, and we really, really hope to see you guys there. Thank you so much.
Thanks. Great job, guys. Thanks, Tom.
So this is a wonderful initiative. I highly recommend you to take advantage of it. Again, to go beyond just the classroom experience. It can be one of your personal goals to go to the decision-making workshop, to participate in the public speaking workshop, and again, get out of your comfort zone and improve as a leader. It's a slow process, yet possible. Okay. So we have a lot to get through today, so let me jump right in. Remember last time where we left, we talked about the vision, the importance of a vision for an organization, the importance of a vision for the individual, and then we started talking about communicating. How do we communicate the vision? So the first thing we talked about was be positive. Appreciate the seed that's there for the potential, and we contrasted Reagan and Carter, two very smart presidents, but one did the appreciative inquiry thing, talked about faith, hope, success, heroism, whereas the other talked about the malaise in this country, the problems. Both are important, but the question is, what do we focus on more? Not to the exclusion of the other. The second thing that we talked about is the importance of evoking emotions, and we do it through stories, through metaphors, and through images. The most successful communicators, whether it's U.S. presidents throughout history or successful businessmen and women, use stories. They bring up images, pictures. These are the things that stick. Finally, the most important thing when we communicate a vision is to walk our talk. Otherwise, what we get is cynicism in the organization. Ultimately, we stop believing in ourselves. It affects our self-esteem if we don't walk our talk, if we don't lead by example. Noel Tishia, leading leadership scholar. Unless the vision is sustained by action, it quickly turns into ashes. Warren Bennis, leaders articulate and embody the ideals toward which the organization strives. First of all, they articulate it, and then they embody it. They live it. Yates, in dreams begins responsibility. It's only the first step to establish a vision. After that, the most important thing is action. Walk your talk, lead by example. I want to do a quick exercise with you here. Not too difficult. Let's try it. So take your thumb and your middle finger. Just put them up like this. And then get the tip of your thumb to touch the tip of your middle finger and try and make it as circular as possible. As circular as possible. Again, not an ellipse, but a circle. Just check if it's a circle as much as you can. Some people are more flexible than others. Now, take the circle, the space in the circle, and put it on your cheek. On your cheek. On your cheek. On your cheek. There are still some of you. All right. Action speaks louder than words. I was looking, most of you, certainly the first time I said it. Is that for the ones who got it right? The first time I did it, most of you had it on your chin. Actions speak louder than words. Emerson put it beautifully. What you do speaks so loudly that I cannot hear what you say. As a leader, especially, people are watching you, and they're watching you all the time. This is also important for parenting. The kids will ultimately do what you do, not what you say. So you can tell them, be honest, live a life of integrity. But if the parent doesn't live a life of integrity, doesn't lead by example, the kid is more likely to follow the actions rather than the words. Gandhi, going back to his quote, be the change you want to see in the world. If you want to see an organization where people are driven, where people are committed, be that. Be committed, be driven. If you want an organization where people are benevolent and generous, be that. There's not 100%, there's not a one correlation between how you behave as a leader and how the people behave, but the correlation is very high. And the lecture today is going to be about how leaders create their environment. And the primary way of creating an environment, whether a positive or a toxic environment, depends on how you behave, on your actions as a leader. Myths and facts. One of them, from build to last, one of the myths that they identified, companies become visionaries through vision statements. That's a myth. They become visionary not by writing the vision. Visionary companies walk the talk. Their focus is on expressing their vision. Vision is just the first step in a 1,000-mile journey. It's a step that informs every step along the way. Remember, it makes us more resilient, more likely to overcome difficulties, but it is just the beginning. To summarize the vision component of the lecture, the ABC of psychology: affect, emotion, behavior, action, and cognition, thought. In terms of the affect of envisioning, the emotion, you want to evoke emotion through stories, through images, through metaphors. In terms of behavior, walk the talk. Great leaders under-promise and over-deliver. And that's a real challenge in today's world. because we have so many competing requests, especially the higher you go up in the hierarchy. Under-promise, over-deliver. The vision needs to be your in-espoused theory and also your in-use theory. There has to be integrity there. And finally, cognition. Repeat it, the thought. Repeat the vision over and over again. Remember Jim Burke, 40% of his time talking about the Johnson & Johnson vision. Jack Welch spends 50% of his time teaching, and what he mostly teaches is the GE way, or taught, the General Electric way. Anita Roddick, I saw her on a number of occasions. Every time I saw her, she's the founder of The Body Shop, every time I saw her, she was talking about the vision of The Body Shop, what it's about. Over and over and over again, like a broken record if necessary. So let me move on now from the vision to the context in which this vision is implemented. This is your role as a leader. But before I go into the leader, I first want to hear from you. What you think is the ideal employee. So as a leader, and you are a current leader, you're going to be a future leader, what is the ideal employee that you would like to have that would make your life so much easier as a leader? The reason I'm asking this is because 1508, in collaboration with Harvard University, has a new program. And the new program is to help you, when you graduate, find those ideal employees. But before we find those ideal employees, we need to know what we're looking for. So I want to hear from you. What will that ideal employee look like? Just characteristics, traits, very briefly. Yes. Passionate. Mike.
Good at
communication. Reliable. Honest. Takes initiative. Creative. Sorry? Good looking? No problem. Yeah. Yeah. Disciplined. Good leadership. Loyal. Smart. Confident. Strong voice. Yeah. What was it? Friendly. Authentic. What's that? Authentic. Objective. Gives good feedback. Objective. Team player.
Beautiful enemy.
Beautiful enemy. No, we already said that. Good looking, right? Yeah.
Fun.
Resourceful. Fun. Okay. So if you had these characteristics, would you be satisfied as employees? It would make your job so much easier, right? As a leader. We're going to go back to this later, or you'll get that ideal employee in the mail sooner than you expect. Okay. So I want to go back now, and today will be a little bit of the history of leadership studies, because I want to go back to one of the first theorists on leadership who talked about the ideal employee, who talked about what great leadership is, and that is McGregor. McGregor who taught at MIT here, then went and actually was the president of Antioch College. And what McGregor talked about, and he said all leaders, all managers have two or have one of two basic assumptions about human nature. He called them, many of you may have heard of it, Theory X and Theory Y. Let me tell you what Theory X basic assumptions are and what Theory Y basic assumptions. These are assumptions that we as leaders, future managers, have about most people. Not all people, but most people. Most people who are going to be working with us or for us in the future. First of all, a Theory X manager believes that most people don't like going to work in the morning. Wait for that Friday to come. Most people do not want to take on a lot of responsibility. What they want is to do whatever is assigned to them, and that's it. Most people want the paycheck at the end of the month. There is little ambition beyond that. Most people want to be told what to do. They're looking for a leader to tell them exactly what they should do, how they should move from point A to point B. They have little ability to solve problems. They want answers more than they want questions. Most people cannot be really, truly trusted. You have to watch them. You have to control them. Otherwise, they make mistakes. Otherwise, they loaf. And finally, the important point is, fortunately, there are two groups of people. There is them, who need to be watched, who need to be controlled, who need to be told what to do, who need to be led, who don't like working, and therefore we have to keep close control of their actions. But then there is us. We, the lucky few, the leaders, who are going to make sure that the organization functions. We're the doers. We make the dream happen. Two groups of people. So let's look at Theory Y now. Very different, radically different management assumptions. Work can be enjoyable as play. Most people can enjoy work. Again, not all people, most people. Most people want to accept reasonable levels of responsibility. It doesn't mean that a secretary wants the responsibility of the CEO, but it means that she wants to take more and more responsibility over time and grow. Most people do have strong for themselves, goals for themselves, and they're looking for the right organization where they can realize, actualize those goals beyond just getting to Friday, beyond just getting their paycheck. Most people like to lead occasionally. They want to take on more and more responsibility. Most people can solve problems. Again, not everyone can solve the problems that a CEO solves, but they have very high potential for solving problems. Most people don't need to be watched. You can leave them, tell them what you want. They'll do it. They're responsible. They don't need to be watched. They're trustworthy. And finally, most people can be autonomous and independent, just like a leader. Now here's the question, and it's a fundamental, crucial question, and it's not an easy question. Which one is right? Now the reason why I'm saying it's not an easy question, think about it this way. If your job depended on it, what kind of assumptions would you act according to? If your job depended on it. And your job will depend on it because a leader depends to a great extent on how the followers perform. Which is right? Theory X, people need to be controlled, watched, led, directed. Or Theory Y, people can be autonomous and independent. People can be trusted. They don't need to be watched closely. People can be given responsibility. It's not an easy question. Which one is right? Think for a second. If your job depended on it, or currently in the organization that you're running, or in the future when you become a manager, Don't just think about which is your espoused theory. Think about what would your in-use theory be. Because there is a right answer to this question. And here it is. Which one is right, theory X or theory Y? The right empirical research-based answer is that they're both right. They're both right. Because the way it works is that our expectations become self-fulfilling prophecies. If we have management X assumptions and we behave accordingly, we will bring out the behavior associated with theory X. If we believe in theory Y and behave accordingly, we will bring out behaviors associated with theory Y. You get what you expect as a leader because you create that environment that brings out these characteristics or the characteristics of theory X. Let's go over them again. Most people hate work. Sure, they hate it if when they come to work they're bored, they're not given any responsibility, and they're controlled tightly. Of course they'll hate it. On the other hand, if you create a different environment where people get to express themselves, they may like work just as much as they like play. Most people want to avoid responsibility. What kind of environment do you create? Well, if it's an environment where every mistake is punished, you'll get one kind of employee. If people are encouraged to take risks, to try, to experiment, then they will want to take more responsibility. Ambition, nothing kills ambition more than boredom and control. Most people prefer to be led. We've spoken about this a lot. Leadership, people are not born leaders. They're not born with any skill. If they're given an opportunity to exercise leadership, a skill, then they'll become leaders. They will want to lead. On the other hand, if they're not given the opportunity, they're not going to want to do it. Little ability to solve problems. Again, one of the things that we've known for years is that we only use small percentage of our capabilities. So how much of our brain power is exercised at work? How much do we get to practice? How much do we get to develop as leaders? Most people require close control to prevent mistakes and prohibit loafing. That's true, if that's what we expect from people. There's a lot of research, we'll talk about some of it in a few minutes, on equity theory, where people feel the need to reciprocate something that they get. So if someone gives you a gift, it's automatic, human nature. We want to reciprocate that gift. That works with physical gifts, but also with metaphysical gifts, such as trust. If I give someone trust, they will want to reciprocate that trust. If I don't trust them, then they will feel no need to be trustworthy. And finally, two groups of people. That's right, there are, if that's what you expect. You get what you expect. Leaders create the environment, and thereby their beliefs become self-fulfilling prophecies. Let me give you an example. As you know, I served in the Israeli military for 3 years. And it was probably the period when, if there was one thing I learned, it was about leadership. It wasn't fun 3 years, but I did learn a lot. The beginning of my tenure in the Israeli army, I was under your typical SOB commander. The ones you see in the movies. He would scream at us. I was part of quite a large unit. He would scream at us. He would make us work. He kept us on a short leash. If we did something wrong, if we deviated from the straight and narrow, he would punish us. But, we were smart. We found ways to circumvent his control. So what we would do, for example, the base was a huge army base. It was his offices were on one side, and where we did a lot of our work was on the other side of the base. So we worked there, and we'd have a watch person outside working or pretending to work. And we were inside storerooms. And what we would do there is we would either sleep or play the official sport of the Israeli military, which is backgammon. And one thing you don't know about me, I'm a wicked backgammon player, thanks to the army. So this is what we did. As soon as his car would come, we would immediately be either woken up or alerted and go back to work. After a while, he realized that we were playing games with him, so instituted even closer controls. And what he did was divide and conquer. And he said, if I catch anyone here loafing, the entire unit is going to stay here for the weekend. Now, the most precious thing for a soldier is home leave. You want to go home over the weekend to see your family, to see your girlfriend, boyfriend. So that's why he punished us. And he followed up on what he said. He said, if I catch anyone loafing, that person is going to go to jail. And he practiced what he preached. Many people from my unit went to a military jail for small, tiny misdemeanors. We were afraid. Teamwork went down. There was no fun in the unit. And then we found other ways to circumvent his control. We were able to fake temperature. So we would get home leave, sick leave. And there are ways, if you want any, I can tell you later. May come in handy one day. We found ways to leave the army base. There were a few holes in the fences. We would leave at night, go out to the city, and come back. We paid a price. If we were caught, we were mostly not caught. The end of the year inspection was coming up. He gathered us all together, and he said, and this was a national inspection where they come from the central command and test your base. He said, if you fail this, you're going to pay a dear price. He didn't specify what, but we didn't want to find out what. We knew he meant it. So we worked for the inspection, and we passed. Fortunately, his tenure came to an end about halfway through my tenure in the military, and a new commander came in. This guy was tough. This guy was demanding. But this guy was respectful and generous. And he came his first day and he said to us, these are the things that I expect. I know you can do them. I'll help in whatever way I can. And that was the end of it. He also gave us a pass. In the army, a pass means, which he signed, you can leave the base. He gave us an open pass and said, you can leave whenever you want. You can come back whenever you want. I just want the work done. Initially, we weren't sure what's going on here because the only model we had was the previous one. But he practiced what he preached too. Teamwork skyrocketed. Humor went up. Fun went up. And we worked harder than we'd ever worked before. We didn't want to let him down. When the yearly inspection came around, he said, these are the things I expect. He himself worked hard, practiced what he preached, led by example. We didn't only pass the inspection, we won top prize in the military for the best base. My first half of the tenure, Theory X leader. The second half, Theory Y. Same people, there was very little turnover while they were there, same people, behaving radically different. Once, like Theory X, we hated our work, we didn't want to take on responsibility, we were afraid, we didn't want to lead, we just wanted to get home over the weekend. We certainly couldn't be trusted. On the other hand, with Theory Y, we actually enjoyed our time there. It was fun. Teamwork skyrocketed. We worked extremely hard. We could be trusted. We were autonomous and independent. Same people, different leader, radically different behaviors. Now, how does that work? You see, leaders create their environment. First, a leader has assumptions, expectations of employees. Theory X, theory Y, somewhere in the middle, something different, but every leader has certain expectations of his or her employees or followers. Then, these expectations manifest themselves in behavior. The behavior then creates an organizational environment. And that environment, in turn, produces certain behaviors in the employees, which then go back and reinforce the leader assumptions and expectations. Example, my Theory X commander, the first commander that I had. Assumptions about human nature, can't be trusted, need to control them, I don't have high expectations. Behavior, very strict controls, very strict punishment, short leash. The environment, oppressive, terrible, awful, a nightmare. What kind of behavior does it produce? People loafing, trying to get away with as little as they can, running away, faking temperature, playing backgammon. And this behavior, whenever we were caught, only reinforced. I told you I can't trust them. I told you I have to keep a short leash. And the leash becomes even shorter. The oppression becomes even stronger. The environment becomes even more oppressive. Our behavior becomes even more sophisticated, which reinforces the assumptions. You see, I really can't trust them. And so on, and so on, and so on, in a downward spiral of distrust. Take the Theory Y manager. Assumption, I can trust them. They're capable of a lot. The behavior, a free pass. Freedom to do what you want. I'll just be there supporting you. The kind of environment that it created, open, fun, enjoyable. The behavior that it brings out, the best. We want to work hard. We don't want to let him down. We want to be there for him. He trusts us. We want to reciprocate it. And when he catches us doing things right, he says, you see, I can trust them. They're wonderful. They're great. Even more perks, even a better environment. Behavior, we want to reciprocate even more, further reinforcing his beliefs, and so on in an upward spiral of trust and productivity. Same people, very different behaviors. Think about yourselves. Think about yourself under a good manager, a good leader, a good teacher, versus a bad one. What were you like? You're going to have an assignment to talk about this, but also to interview your parents or someone who's had much more experience in the real world and ask them about a good leader that they had and about a bad leader that they had, and then to ask them, what were you like under the good leader? What were you like under the bad leader? Same people behave radically different depending on the environment that leaders create. I do a lot of consulting, and one of the types of consulting that I started doing just recently, over the last 5 years, is ethics. I studied philosophy as an undergrad. I also did a lot of work on leadership and ethics. So organizations invite me to talk to them about the importance of ethics, and I connect it to the vision, to the values. So I was brought into one of the largest companies in the world. I was brought into one of their large subsidiaries. And the manager brought me in, and he was managing hundreds of people. And he said, I have a problem. People are dishonest in my organization. They don't tell me the truth. Now, one of our core values is integrity, which it was. But still, there is no integrity in this organization. Help. Now, what I do when I consult, I always interview people from the very top all the way down. So I interviewed a cross-section of the organization. Within 2 or 3 interviews, it was clear to me what was going on. Here is what was happening. Every time someone came in to the CEO, and delivered bad news that the CEO didn't like, the person would be shouted at. In other words, the messenger was shot. And what did the people learn very quickly? That if they don't want to be shot, if they don't want to be humiliated, which is the word that they used, one person after another, whether direct, just directly under the boss, or all the way to the secretary in the organization. They knew that if they didn't want to be humiliated, they wouldn't be able to tell the full truth and nothing but the truth. So what was happening there was that they learned to lie or to hide unfavorable news. The leader's behavior: shoot the messenger. The environment: people were scared. Because people were scared, they started to lie. Whenever he caught them lying, he said, you see, I can't trust them. There is no integrity in this organization. So his behavior would be even more oppressive. He would get even more angry when he caught people lying. And people became more afraid of telling the truth or being caught. Downward spiral of distrust and no integrity in the organization. In other words, he was the cause of the problem. And ultimately, he also became the solution. Let me discuss some research findings that show how this works, how leaders create the environment. I want to start with what is considered by many the founding research of the human resource movement within organizational behavior. This was done not far from here in the Hawthorne plant of Western Electric. And the study was supposed to be a very simple one. They wanted to see the effect of light on employees' productivity. So here is what they did. They went into the plant, and there were workers working there, and they turned the light up. And what happened? Employees' productivity went up. They went in again, and they turned up the light even further. And you know what? Employee productivity went up again. And then they said, let's try the opposite. They turned down lights to its initial level. And you know what happened? Productivity went up again. Then they turned the light down to a lower level than it was at the beginning. And you know what? You got it. Productivity levels went up even more. They didn't understand what's going on here. What's up? We thought light helped, but then even less light than initially, and the productivity continues to go up. And after much thinking, and after interviewing the employees, what they realized was that what brought productivity up was the fact that the employees felt that they were cared for. That here someone is interested in them, in their productivity. It wasn't the light. Yeah, maybe it was less convenient to work with less light versus more light. But ultimately, it was that they felt cared for by their management. Whereas before, they were just doing the job. And you know, until then, remember Professor Raylon was talking about Taylorism? Until then, Taylorism prevailed, which was human beings are like machines. You know, you put in a quarter and you get X number of minutes of productivity. You put in 2 quarters, you get double. And they thought you turn on the light, you will get more. I mean, this was already a radical idea, but suddenly they realized human beings are not just machines. As Follett said, the whole human being goes to work. Not just the hands or not just the mind. It's this too. And if you invest in the human being, you will get much more out of that person. It's been called the Hawthorne effect. Very powerful effect, and it works. Leaders create their environment by what they show their employees. Do I care or do I not care? Equity theory. I talked about it earlier. A lot of research shows that we want to reciprocate that which we get, whether it's money or trust. I want to share with you a story. It's a story rather than actual research that was carried out, but it's a true story. So it wasn't in any of the referee journal. I read it in All I Needed to Know I Learned in Kindergarten, which is a great psychological text, but unfortunately I can't reference here it as the Journal of Personality and Social Psychology. Not quite the same, but an important story. They did this, an actual experiment. They ran it in New York City. And what the person did was he found someone with a foreign accent to stand on a street corner and to hail a cab. And what he did was ask the cab to get to a certain street. Now, the street was actually just around the corner, literally. But a taxi driver stops, a foreigner asks him to get to that street. The assumption is this guy has no idea where he is. This is an opportunity for the perfect crime, so to speak. No one will know, I can just take him for a ride. Now, this person did it 32 times in New York with taxi cabs, stopping the cab, asking to get to a certain street. Out of the 32 cab drivers that he stopped, how many do you think took him for a ride? Seriously, how many do you think? 5? 3? I was asked this question, I guess probably 10. How many people here have been taken for a ride by taxis or know people who have been taken for a ride by taxis? I think many people. I certainly know. So, in fact, out of the 32, one taxi took him for a ride. But here is the interesting point. Out of the 32, almost all the drivers said the following: "Oh, the street is just around the corner. But be careful, because other drivers will take you for a ride." So even they didn't understand or respect enough their own quote-unquote kind. Why? Because what we hear about are the negatives. We hear about when someone is taken for a ride by taxi. You don't come back, from Logan and tell your friend, "You know what? The taxi driver didn't take me for a ride. He took me right to my dorm room." You don't say that. But if you go on holiday and someone takes you for a ride, that's schmuck. Do you know what happened to me So what do we hear about? The bad news. And then we get a heuristic in our mind that people cannot be trusted. Most people want to do good. Most people can be trusted. And again, there is a lot of research, starting with Adams in 65. People want to reciprocate goodness. I trust you, taxi driver. I will be trustworthy back to you. Fun research. This was done at one of the leading universities. And what the researchers did, two psychologists, or 3 psychologists, what they did was they went to an incoming class, first-year PhD students, master's students, in economics, and first-year students in humanities. And what they did was the following. They had them play The Prisoner's Dilemma, those games, and they tested how benevolent they were in the game, how generous they were in the game. They tested how much they cared about the other person, how self-centered and selfish and self-interested in the narrow sense of the word they were, and so on. And they measured the 2 incoming classes. And they fared about the same in terms of generosity, in terms of narrow self-interest, just to maximize my own, not caring about the other. And the humanities and the economics were measured about the same. And then they measured them again at the end of the year, the first year of economics. The humanities students, no difference. If they were generous before, they were generous after. The ec students changed. They became more self-centered. They became more self-interested in the narrow sense of the word. It was more about win-lose. Why? What do you learn first-year economics, especially in grad school? What theories do you learn? Red theory, right? Rational theory. What does rational theory tell us? Human beings work to maximize their self-interest. And it's not self-interest in, I feel good when other people feel good. It's self-interest, how can I maximize my profits, my utils, so to speak. And that's what they learn. This is what their professors, their leaders are telling them. And that becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. They actually behave more accordingly by the end of 1 year of studying that stuff. Psychological safety. This is research done by Amy Edmondson from the business school here. She's actually is the one who's going to be speaking for the LIC event that you'll get an email about. And she did her PhD here actually at the time when I was an undergrad, and she was working with my thesis advisor, Richard Hackman. And the work that she was doing, she was working in hospitals, and she wanted to look at the rates of errors in the hospital and how that relates to Richard Hackman's theory of creating the conditions for effective teamwork. Finally, after years of studies, one day on the 15th floor of William James Hall, she runs into Richard Hackman's office and she says, "I have the results, Eureka!" And he says, "Let's see it," because he was waiting for these results also. And he looks at them, smiles, and, "Are you sure these are the results?" She said, yeah, I just calculated and I checked it. He said, "Go check it again." She gets worried. She goes back, she checks everything again, runs the statistics, goes back to Professor Hackman and says, "Yeah, these are the results. Why?" He says, "It's in the wrong direction." "What do you mean?" And she looks at them and she says, "Oh my God." The people who fulfilled the conditions of Professor Hackman's for ideal teamwork, for the best teamwork, actually made more mistakes. And this is costly. You're talking about human lives in hospitals. This was and his theory has been replicated and it works, and he didn't understand it, and she didn't understand it. So she went back to the hospital and started interviewing these units. And what she found out very quickly was that it wasn't that they made more mistakes. It was that they reported more mistakes. In fact, there was less severe errors made in these groups, less loss of life, and less mistakes made overall in hospitals where the people, whether it's the doctors or the nurses, the employees, felt more comfortable reporting their mistakes. In other words, and this is a phrase she termed, there was more psychological safety in these organizations. The environment that was created, one was where people were afraid to make the mistake. The others were that they felt, or to report the mistake rather, they felt open, they felt secure. And when there was a mistake, they talked about it, and it didn't happen again. They learned from mistakes. What environment do you create as a leader? So what do you want? You want passionate employees? Give me 2 minutes, not even. Because this is important. You want passionate employees? Do you create an environment where people can express their passion? Like in theory, why? Do you want communication? Well, you'll get it if people are not afraid. Do you want them to be reliable? Build trust over time. You want them to be honest? Don't shoot the messenger. Do you want them to take initiative? Remember, what kills initiative is boredom and control. Create an environment where they feel psychologically safe. As a leader, not 100% of the time, but very often you will get what you expect. Good luck on Monday. I'll see you then.